No, I'm not sliding over.
Charger for your phone.
For my phone?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys don't want this?
Well, no, I'm just.
Punt block is fluttering around and it's picked up and grabbed and running down the left sideline and into the end zone for an Ohio State touchdown.
Tandem Christmas sweater.
Oh my God, you guys are tools.
Here's Murray, the worst nightmare for Tony Gibson's defense. Murray gets a nice block downfield from CeeDee Lamb and scores.
Show off my fancy socks.
Well, your feet can't touch the floor.
My feet can't even make, like if I sit all the way back, I don't even make it to the bend.
Are you
Like-
on a phone book again?
Brown taking a shot, end zone, caught, touchdown, Mecole Hardman.
Can we hold hands under this or no? Is that too far?
Yeah, it's absolutely too far. My hand is right here. There's no impropriety underneath this sweater.
Tony Jones makes a cut, gets a block, and scores! Is that the play that will seal the playoff bid for Fighting Irish?
Look at that fancy Christmas tree. Woo! Mike Golick Jr. coming up big. Coming up big on this. You know the time. It's Rankings Reaction. It's the Rankings Reaction show. Mike Golick Jr., Jason Fitz, and we have guest stars galore. My boy Trevor Scales. You usually see us on Saturdays hanging out for the college football
Good
show.
to be here
You get to
again.
come back.
Yeah,
Yes.
return.
And we're going to have
Friend of the
another
show?
surprise guest that comes sits right in
We'll
this
leave
little...
it nice.
We hope.
We're
Open.
keeping it. We're keeping it.
Yeah,
We're keeping
you know,
the seat
like-
warm for star power.
Yeah, no, he's definitely gonna come, right?
Yeah, I got a text earlier.
Oh, you got a text, so that means it's gonna happen.
It's automatic.
And speaking of happening, those shoes are.
Fantastic.
I know we got a lot of college football rankings to get to. You guys can hashtag rankings reaction, but those shoes, fire.
I make sure that I bring a certain level of heat, trying to get a special someone to notice at some point in this process. But we will see. The Prestos.
Me, you want me to notice?
I want you to notice my Prestos. Yes.
Okay. Well, I do want you to notice my socks because they're specifically for you.
Oh, look at
I
that.
got Backstreet Boy socks going on this week. Backstreet's back. You do it every Friday on First and Last. You got Backstreet, like Backstreet Boy Friday, right?
Yes.
So I'm in honor of you. I brought the Backstreet Boy
I
socks.
appreciate that. They say Backstreet's back. I'm really confused when they ever left. Like, when did they ever stop?
They
being
didn't.
great?
Hey, shout out to them though. Like they're having a resurgence at pop radio. I'm really proud of the guys for that.
Yeah, man, it's good stuff.
Trevor, do you have anything to add to?
I like the Backstreet Boys. Like I was an NSYNC guy coming up, to be completely honest with you, in that whole war of pop culture. But yeah,
And it was a war of pop culture.
straight up.
We're only minutes away from being joined by radio. We're going to be simulcasting this week as we've done in the past. So we're going to have a huge audience coming from radio and coming from Twitter. It's going to be a fabulous time. You guys can get in on the conversation. Hashtag rankings reaction. Obviously, if you haven't seen the big news, Alabama's #1, right? That was the big news.
We were all waiting on pins and needles to see if the Tide would maintain their #1 spot.
My bad. I'm sorry. The big news is obviously Clemson's #2, right? This is called a draw.
We're just gonna
I'm
milk
stretching
this,
the
huh?
dough on this. No, we're not. Okay, fine.
Just
We
get to it. Come on, get
The top 25. It's been revealed. Alabama at 1, Clemson 2, Notre Dame for Mike's sake at 3. 4 is Georgia.
How about
None
them
of us
dogs,
surprised.
Fitz?
Wow.
How about them dogs?
Yeah, I should know that Trevor Scales, while he played for Harvard, is a dog through and through. But the big statement from everybody is at 5 and 6. Oklahoma at 5. Ohio State at 6. I'm here to say the committee got it right. I think this was a statement, though, guys. The committee had to show us how they feel about a team that has the biggest blowout loss, but also the most significant win of the year for college football. That's what Ohio State has done.
Big win late in the season. Ohio State knows this blueprint, man. They've lived this life before. Shades of 2014. We're going to beat that comparison into the ground tonight. But it's important and it's worthwhile. And if Ohio State goes out and thumps Northwestern the way they thumped Wisconsin in 2014, I got sneaking suspicion that team's going to be in the playoff.
What?
And I'll tell
You think Ohio State's going to leapfrog Oklahoma by beating a Northwestern team that fell in the rankings?
If they beat the absolute mess out of Northwestern, because what Texas, Oklahoma's getting ready to play, is 2 spots above that Northwestern team right now. They are 2 spots above. Oh, sorry, that's Texas A&M.
Yeah,
never
Texas
mind.
Texas is at 14.
I was like, wait a minute,
At least from what
that
we
seems
just got.
wrong, and like it supports my point way too well.
But Gojo, like, don't you think there's something to the fact that Oklahoma gets a chance to literally redeem the 1 loss that they have on their schedule in the season?
There is something to that, but the book on Oklahoma is out. They score a ton of points and they give up a ton of points. And I have a feeling all those coaches that sit in on that committee are a little sick and tired of watching nobody play defense. And they saw Ohio State do enough on defense to go, maybe they'll be our one.
Do enough. I mean, we're not talking about Ohio State's defense like it's suddenly like throwing out the dogs. I mean, the Ohio State defense is okay, but it's not that much better.
They
than
always
Oklahoma's.
have dudes. Like, that's
Yes.
the one thing about the Buckeyes. They always recruit really well, and there's always going to be pro-level prospects at every single level of that defense. I'm not saying that they performed up until this point. You and I have had this discussion many a times. But they came to play on Saturday, and they always have the ability to show up like that every single Saturday.
I keep hearing people say that, like, the Ohio State's defensive line is stacked with talent. Talent that struggled to beat Maryland. Talent that hasn't looked particularly good more often than not. Congratulations, Ohio State. You got tons of talent on a team that played mediocre football.
Jason, what happens every year in the NFL draft?
Straight up.
With quarterbacks. We look at guys that are super talented,
Yep.
and we say, you know what? I think I can work with that guy. I see a ceiling there that I don't see. There's a reason Deshaun Watson was not the first quarterback taken, because eventually, if you're on too much and people get too much of you, they got time to nitpick all the flaws. And we've had time to nitpick all of Oklahoma's flaws. Ohio State gave us something different. They gave us something that we all wanted and expected, and now I have a feeling this committee wants to reward them for it.
Cam on Twitter, just remember, hashtag rankings reaction, you can get in this conversation. Cam on Twitter just pointed out, OSU gave up 51 points to Maryland. Let's relax a little bit on this, like great defense conversation about Ohio State. That's all I'm saying. Oh, and we get Trevor Scales, top 5 person of all time.
Let's go.
Of all time.
Hey, I can't help it.
You got like a fan club that comes out of it? You didn't wear any Backstreet Boys socks.
Paying your
I
uncle.
got socks on. They're not bad.
Yeah, they're not bad at all. Don't
Come
you-
on
They're
now.
not bad, but
Don't slander them.
Backstreet's back.
All right.
All right, so we're going to be joined by radio here in just a second, and we're going to be doing this as we hang out on radio and on Twitter through the duration of this. By the way, no comment yet on my fire Christmas sweater?
I mean, we knew you were fishing for it. That's the problem, is you wanted it too much.
Fishing for it, I earned it. I earned it. This is fabulous stuff. Welcome in radio, Spain and Fitz. It's the hashtag rankings reaction show coming in. We're going to do this for the next hour on Spain and Fitz. Mike Golick Jr., Jason Fitz, Trevor Scales.
Hello.
One of our special guests. We got two. We got one more coming. I'm not saying Trevor isn't an amazing special guest, but we got somebody bigger coming too. So,
Listen.
I mean, we got someone bigger. If he comes, this is someone bigger than all of us.
Yes.
Right?
I
The
think we
reason
all
he's
know
not
that.
here is because he's coming from the Sports Center set. I mean, he's better than us.
that is, you don't
He
give
lives
it
in
away.
a much
Don't-
nicer neighborhood
don't
than
give
I
it
do.
away.
Like, there's a reason he wouldn't return your calls about doing the show at his house, and I was like, please come take my living
Wait,
room.
did you try and do it? Did we try and move locations? That
I
would
mean,
have
I'm
been. But I
sure
love how
I wasn't
you.
the first choice.
You're talking about this like we're sitting in some slum here. Like we're in Mike Golick Jr.'s living room for everybody on radio hanging out. And this is actually, people ask me all the time, is this actually Golick Jr.'s living room? Like, yes, it is. That his Christmas tree. Did you decorate that yourself, buddy?
I did. I put that up today so that my mom wouldn't yell at me when she watched this Twitter feed, because if I
boy.
hadn't decorated, I would have gotten in a lot of trouble, and pretty much everything I've ever done in this house has been motivated out of fear of a woman.
Your mom is a saint. Happy birthday to her, by the way.
happy birthday.
It's rankings reaction. We're a couple days belated, or a day belated. But
Day belated,
still
yeah.
counts. Mike Golick Jr., Jason Fitz, Trevor Scales, another special guest coming, getting you caught up on what has happened. The committee has spoken, and they've spoken in a big, big way. Matt Schick, who hosts Game Day Radio on ESPN Radio on the weekend, said earlier he thought this would be the most important penultimate or most statement-oriented penultimate rankings we've ever seen. They made their statement. Number 1, Alabama. Number 2, Clemson. Number 3, Notre Dame. Number 4, Georgia. That is what many of us expected. After that, we got our statement. Number 5, Oklahoma. Number 6, Ohio State. Number 7 is Michigan. So Michigan gets thumped by Ohio State. For that, they fall just a few spots. UCF gets their way up 1 to number 8. Florida at 9, and LSU, who apparently can lose to everybody in the country and still be in the top 10, sitting at number 10. Mike, your immediate reactions to that?
People in Orlando got to be mighty upset with this one. And now it's a balance, because for this one we obviously understand Mackenzie Milton, the horrific injury. First and foremost, that it was brutal to watch for a guy that's been an unreal college football player and an unreal program. But we knew for this week the rankings are supposed to reflect what you've done so far. And UCF still went out and won that game pretty handily. Now, going into this next weekend, as we adjust for the final rankings on Sunday, that could fall even more based on what happens on Sunday, and also the fact, like, that's not a walkover game against Memphis, and the committee is supposed to take into account injuries when they happen and what this team looks like without their star quarterback.
Let me be a beacon of light, Trevor Scales. You ready for this?
Go ahead. What you got, buddy?
They got a full game against Memphis to show that, hey, they are such a juggernaut offensively
Right.
that they can still do it. And a few weeks ago, the guys, a lot of the college football guys, Brad Edwards, I think, was at the forefront of it, were tweeting out this chaotic scenario of if all of these things happen, UCF could get into the top 4. Some of those scenarios still exist. I mean, if Northwestern can win,
Yeah.
and if Texas can win, all of a sudden UCF's going to be sitting there, especially if Alabama goes out and just thumps Georgia.
Sure.
Sorry. If that
listen,
happens,
it's real.
UCF does at least have this one game with the backup quarterback against Memphis, who they struggled to beat earlier, to make a statement.
Yeah, this is the textbook area where UCF can prove that they have things outside of their starting quarterback that can help them help move them up in the rankings. They are equipped to do so. They have like a myriad of 500-yard rushers on that roster that allow them the capability offensively to keep up with just about anybody. So if UCF can make a statement, beat Memphis handily this in the conference championship this weekend, we'll see what they can do. But it does take a lot of help in front of them.
We're supposed to take into account the conference championship. That's one thing. If all resumes are somewhat equal,
Yep.
the committee's supposed to look at conference championships. How much the AAC conference championship is worth to the committee is going to be interesting, because we already got a statement. Every time someone has lost a meaningful game, it has not been enough for UCF to jump them. It took LSU getting 3 losses for that to finally happen. Michigan is still above them. LSU was above them before. And now Georgia at number 4 above them. We're really supposed to believe if Georgia loses to Alabama, even if they get beat like LSU, that that's going to be enough for the committee to jump UCF over them? No, they've shown us time and time again. If it comes down to it and Alabama thumps Georgia and UCF wins, they're still going to put Georgia in. Yeah.
You're listening to Spain and Fitz. This is the Rankings Reaction Show. You can see it on Twitter, #RankingsReaction. We are here to get your reactions. You can join in the conversation. Mike Golick Jr., Jason Fitz, Trevor Scales. We got another big guest coming to join us. Are you here to say that if Alabama beats Georgia, in your mind, it's a good game, Alabama beats Georgia, we get the rest of this chaos. So it's for the sake of this, Texas beats Oklahoma.
Yep.
and Northwestern beats Ohio State.
Yep.
Okay.
In that process, you're here to say a 2-loss Georgia team would go in your mind over an undefeated UCF team.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So there's no chance. There's no chance.
Based on what we've been told, yes. And I mean, hell, based on this, we'd have to look at the fact what they think about putting a 2-loss Michigan team.
That's what I
over
was just
there.
ready to say.
Like,
Yeah,
they're
there's
still
already
ranked
another
above
2-loss
them
team
too.
there.
How much is a win against Memphis worth to the committee at this point? That's what you got to ask yourself, because right now they told you what they've done so far, not enough to be above a 2-loss team.
But let's remember, Michigan now has the one thing on your resume you can't bounce back from. We can continue to use this narrative week in and week out because we see it again, yet again. We are seeing a situation where, Trevor, a terrible loss.
Right.
This is what the committee told us. The terrible loss is not outweighed by an incredible win.
No, not at all. Like that is the most detrimental factor to your schedule. If you have a terrible loss, if you get whooped up on, that's what's going to drop you off more than anything. And I think UCF has like some slight semblance of hope with the fact that sitting in that 8 slot, right? If they were to go out and absolutely wax Memphis, there is a chance they could leapfrog a Michigan team that's sitting at home. They could then leapfrog an Ohio State team that loses to Northwestern, and then there's a possibility if Texas knocks off Oklahoma that they move up again. They just have to have the best performance humanly possible for a team, combined with the fact that everything else poorly happens in front of them.
You guys are commenting all over the place.